Welcome to the Functional Nurse Podcast, where we explore how nurses are transforming healthcare through functional medicine and nurse-led innovation. I'm your host, Brigitte Sager, founder of the Institute for Functional Nursing. Here, we're reclaiming our role as healers and leaders, one root cause conversation at a time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Functional Nurse Podcast. I am here today with Sam Hamilton. Hi, Sam.
Hi.
I know that some of you probably recognize Sam because we did an episode, was that a couple years ago now, huh?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, she did my previous training for functional nurses and then did our holistic nursing entrepreneur program and has gone on to start working with us at IFN. I am going to introduce her a little bit and then kind of explain why I have her on today. If you haven't heard that past episode, you could go back and hear a lot more about her background. Samantha is a registered nurse and she has her master's degree in education. She found functional medicine after experiencing some of her own health challenges and advocating for a loved one in the traditional healthcare system. She started her own functional practice as a functional nurse educator, where she focuses on clients who experience the adverse effects of stress. She has taken the applying functional medicine to clinical practice through the Institute for Functional Medicine, as well as having done the functional medicine for nurses program that I had previously taught. She is enrolled in the first cohort of the functional nursing program, which we are about halfway through at this moment. And she was a founding nurse in the holistic nursing entrepreneur program. Her goal is to provide potential students with information needed to help them make informed decisions about their next steps in their functional nursing journey. And as we have been growing at IFN, we needed more help. And there's only so much that the faculty and I and our wonderful Heidi can do. Sam agreed to come in and work with us, and she is our director of growth and partnerships. And a really big part of that role is connecting with potential students and having meetings with them and answering their questions. The reason that she is here with us today is she is going to, moving forward, be hosting some of the podcast episodes, in particular if we're interviewing some of our students. That is something for you to look forward to in the near future. And at the moment, another thing that we were talking about recently is the types of questions she's getting from potential students. We thought we could kind of just have a chat today and share with you more about what it is like to be part of our growing community. Thank you so much, Sam, for being with us.
Of course, I'm very excited and very flattered to be in the role and to be able to help other nurses and just spread functional nursing throughout really the world and let everybody know that we can actually work outside of the healthcare system and we can help prevent patients from needing to be in the hospital system. So I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I had a meeting with students yesterday and we were just talking about like all the unique ways that we're all stepping into the functional space and providing something that is lacking in our communities. And it's such a big deal. And so I know you're having a lot of conversations with potential students and what they're seeing in their communities and what their hopes are. Could you share a little bit about what are some themes that you're really like having with a lot of the potential students?
Yeah, I think a lot of students that I'm talking with on these calls, they come very well informed. Really, I get asked a lot of questions about like why choose the Institute for Functional Nursing or why choose this program. And there's a multitude of reasons. One of which that I like to really talk highly about is the quality of education that you're receiving when you choose our program. In that I've been a student myself who is purchasing programs, and sometimes you don't necessarily know the quality that you're getting. And is the technology like newer? Is it from early 2000s? Was this something that was recorded years ago and practice has changed since then? And so one of the reasons that I really like sharing with students is that all of our faculty members are IFMCP certified.
Yes. And I know that not everybody knows what that means. I'm going to explain what that means. I've gotten so much great feedback about our faculty. I want you to share a little bit after I explain this about your thoughts on, or your experience with our faculty. When I was looking for faculty to help me build the program and support everybody. I was looking for experts in certain areas of the functional world, and we like hit the jackpot. It's been really amazing. IFMCP means that they have done all of the Institute for Functional Medicine's training. Then they went on to take their very challenging board certification. All of us are board certified and have done all of IFM's training. And I will tell you across the board that when I met up with all of them to have that first conversation about if they would be interested and what our vision was for IFN, across the board, they were like, this is what I wanted when I did my training. They say that all the time. The amount of interaction and support that we have is just astronomically more than I've done several programs myself from start to finish and a ton of training in functional medicine. And we just kind of like, there's nobody else like this.
No, and I think that's something that's really important to point out that I have the conversation with students actually pretty regularly is they ask, how is our program different than IFM? Something that I always explain to them is if you think about the difference between, for example, medicine training that a physician assistant gets and the nursing training that a nurse practitioner gets, and how they're really both learning a lot of the same information and a lot of their job is very similar, but the nurse practitioner is learning it through the holistic person nursing lens, really from that grounding of Florence Nightingale, whereas a physician assistant is learning more through that medicine lens. That's really more of what I would compare IFM or the Institute for Functional Medicine to, is that you learn all of the pathophysiology of it. But with our program with IFN or the Institute for Functional Nursing, not only are you learning all of the pathophysiology, but you're learning how to apply it and teach it to a patient or a client in an understandable way that they can then implement and make changes with it. So really learning through the nursing lens is a big emphasis of our program.
I agree. I think getting taught by nursing professionals is just so different. That's the feedback I keep getting is in those programs and in most other programs, it's not graduate prepared. It'll either be folks that don't have a medical background, they don't have a doctorate or a master's. Almost all of our faculty have a doctorate. We have a few that have a master's, and other than their degrees, they have a ton of training. They all have a passion for staying. All of us are like, what conference are you at? What conference are you at? We are all trying to stay as informed as possible for the students, which I think is just a huge thing and a responsibility we have that I see lacking in pretty much every other program other than IFM. And IFM is physicians primarily teaching you. When I have conversations with the larger functional space providers of different practices, I find that to be the thing that kind of we come back to is getting taught by a physician how to do the nurse's role just doesn't land well. They don't understand what we're capable of. They don't understand what we're allowed to do. They don't understand that we're the ones that are actually already primed and ready to take a root cause approach. That's exactly what we learned in nursing school that nobody allowed space for in the conventional healthcare system. All of our faculty 1,000% understand that and celebrate that and who we are as nurses and nurse practitioners. I really love that. The idea that all of the faculty being nursing professionals, they can speak to, and when you go to work tomorrow, XYZ, and they really confidently can say how you're going to put this into action. I think that is as much as IFM is our partner, we have a massive amount of respect for them. Obviously, we all did their program, but that is the thing that is missing there for nursing professionals is what does this mean to me? When I did the training, I felt that way for sure. And what do I say to RNs about where this fits in their practice? The other thing that we were talking about yesterday, I didn't want to forget to mention is we were talking about how I was recently at a conference talking to medical doctors, like different practitioners about a case study that we were talking about that in a presentation. We would pause and be like, what would we do with this person? What would your next steps be? And mine were always grounded in the foundations of, well, I would probably start by having to talk about eating hygiene and spacing meals and talking about prescriptions and advanced testing and expensive supplement blends or using a prescription over something herbal. It was so interesting to have those conversations with a different profession, like a medical doctor that had the same training I did, but interpreted it differently from their lens. So they're really thinking about the medical model. What would I diagnose this person with? And what would I prescribe for it? Where we're like, no, 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 no. Like this person needs to actually chew their food. It sounds so basic, but if you don't address that, you're just going to keep adding in more stuff.
Yep. I think that's where we fit in perfectly too is that, as you said, we teach to the nursing lens. So really, you're getting the same information. And that's something that I think we pride ourselves in is that we are one of the only programs that's teaching to those IFM competencies. So you're getting the same information. You're getting really high quality information and you're getting it in the nursing lens too. That really teaches you how do you take all of this information, all of these competencies, which it can kind of sound intimidating, but then when you break it down and you're like, this is what it really means and how you're going to implement it with your patients, it's so valuable to be able to have that much content. And I think too, something that sets us apart in that going back to the nursing lens, there's so many programs out there that teach coaches and they might not have they might not be an RN, they might not have even a healthcare background. And so then going into these programs as an RN, you're kind of sitting in a different room per se, in that it's almost like walking into a different, I wanna say, like, area of the hospital, and it's like going to, like, the PT department, and they're talking about nutrition versus, like, going to, like, a nursing class and learning nutrition. That's where, even separate from the medicine lens, there's other courses that aren't coming from that nursing lens, and that's really something that is highly valued.
A lot of my students will say, and that was my experience taking a program that was like, I've taken several that were created by people that aren't even healthcare practitioners, or if they are, but they're teaching to health coaches or to get health coaches onboarded into the medical community. Maybe these are folks that don't have a degree and they've done a course online. Now they're a health coach and they need to get up to speed enough to support our patients in the functional world. We have to sit through all that training. Some programs will talk about how long they are. And it's like, yeah, but we start with the ground running, right? We know exactly what nurses already know and we go from there. Where a lot of that training is like, okay, here's what a pancreas is
Yeah.
and here's what it does. It's like things that we learned a really long time ago in even our prereqs for nursing school, and we're having to learn those again with people that don't understand foundations. I think that was a really good point. And you did mention the competencies. IFM published competencies that they consider to be the ideal training that anybody could get if they're going to be practicing in the functional world. So when they published those, we were fortunate that the timing was perfect for us writing the program. We created the entire program to teach very directly to their published competencies, but taking a lot of the faculty will say they'll be reviewing content for their module and letting their thoughts, and then we kind of create a final draft of things. And they'll say, "This is the same stuff that I learned, but it's being said differently. And if only I had heard it that way, I would have understood it better the first
Mhm.
time." I always think about when we teach energy and ATP and the Krebs cycle, and every nurse always tells me, "Oh my gosh, I memorized that for a minute every time I learn it again, and then I forget it again." And so we talk about it to the degree that it applies to what we're doing, but we really want to talk about what are you going to go do with that person
Mhm.
tomorrow as a
Mhm.
result. There's a ton of us making it clear how the biochemistry is really relevant and important to each aspect of the program, but then really leaning into, and what are you going to go do with your people tomorrow?
Yeah, and I think something that we do a really good job of as well is for the people who are like almost intimidated about like, well, I know what the pancreas does, but I couldn't recite it off to you. We do a really good job in semester 1 of covering all those basics, going back to the pathophysiology and talking about how are you going to apply this in the functional lens.
Along this theme, I would love if you could share, since you are a student in the program right now. You and I had talked several weeks ago about how you did the training that I had done for the intro course before, that was like a short, just 12-week like intro. Then you did IFM's foundations course, the AFMCP, and now you're in this program. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that's been like for you?
Yeah, so I've had potential students who will ask me, like, does it feel like you're just learning the same information over again? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, I am learning the same information, but there is always something new that you can pull out of it. One of the things that we do really well in our program is using the resources that you get through IFM. When you are in our functional nursing program, you get access to that IFM toolkit to be able to use the matrix and the timeline. And within our program, we do 3 case studies within each module, and you can actually take that IFM matrix and timeline and you're writing on it almost like your like nursing brain, like you would do at the bedside, and you're putting that picture together. Within that matrix are the different nodes. And something that I'm learning now, despite this being my third course on functional medicine, is really putting the pieces as to like what goes in assimilation, what goes in energy and transport, and being able to see how all of those nodes intermingle with each other, how they
Mhm,
all are
mhm.
connected with each other. And even though I am learning some of the same information, it's in a new lens. I'm learning new things on how to actually apply it as a functional nurse educator who's helping clients and seeing just really how everything is connected.
I remember when you did a story and, like, showed that you were taking report on your patient, and I thought that is such a good idea because I think something really important for anybody that might be listening and thinking about doing the program, it is a lot like nursing school that you're gonna get information, and we give you a lot of cues to practice, but you could go through the whole program and never do that, right? The timeline and the matrix, or we can teach you a lot about lab work. The whole program has a ton about lab work in it. If you're not already comfortable with foundational labs and you don't start applying it and you don't apply what we're talking about, it won't stick. We really lean into like, go practice this tomorrow, do a timeline and matrix on your next patient, or do it on yourself or your loved one. But just practice using these tools because it is just like nursing school where you go to clinical and you're like, what report sheet do I want to use?
Mhm.
How do I want to organize my thoughts and my day? And how I see this person's story and how I'm going to care for them. I loved when you posted that. And then we started talking about it a lot more in the community. Oh, you can take report on your patients and practice using, because the students get a free year in IFM's membership as part of this program due to our relationship with them. And so we get you onboarded, and every module we share with you exactly how that module is teaching the IFM competencies. Like we spell it out very plainly. We also tell you exactly which of the many hundred toolkit items that they include for our students, which ones of those are most relevant to that module that you're in at the moment. Or if you're in cardiometabolic health, which of the toolkit items might be really great ones for you to use with your patients tomorrow that you could connect to the content.
Something that I love too, that's an additional way to apply the information that we're learning is in our live meetups that we have 4 times a month. Oftentimes we're doing case studies we'll do faculty led case studies. Then we'll also do student led case studies where the student can bring an example of a client that they worked with. That's an opportunity for you as a student to be sitting and writing out the matrix as the faculty member or the student is explaining that case study, and you're learning along with it. But then you have a faculty member there with you. Say we are reviewing cardiometabolic health. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I have this question from this previous module that I didn't really get. Can you help me understand it? And there's probably other students who have the same question. And it's almost like being in that classroom environment where, once a week you have your class and you get to ask your faculty member whatever questions you have, and you're doing something to actively apply what you're learning. But it really is, it's on the student to take that initiative to say, you know what, I'm going to dedicate this time to sit down and take a report and write this out. And I love that our meetings are recorded, so even if you were sitting in the meeting and you wanted to rehear it and get that experience again, you can again print out a new matrix and sit down and write everything out again.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that consider the program don't realize that when you sign up, let's say if our cohort is starting in August and you sign up in May, June, July, you get extra months. You immediately get to hop in the membership. That has the recordings since the beginning of IFN. So now there's a ton of content there immediately to hop in and review because there's nothing time aligned in the program other than these 4 meetings a month. Those are optional. People don't have to attend them live. They can watch them later. It's not teaching content from the program. It's connecting the content to your real practice. I have a background as a board certified nurse educator. I have a lot of pride in that and the fact that I try to apply it to the experience that our students have. We don't want you to just buy videos and watch them at home and then hope that they make sense when you go to work tomorrow.
Mhm.
We have the opportunity to leave the video that you just watched and hop in the community and tag the professor that taught it, and or whoever is in there to support you in the membership at the time. We have several of the program faculty are in our membership live there to support you. So you can tag them and ask a question. If there's a meetup coming up, you can hop in there and have a talk about it. We tend to make those meetings, a lot of them about like the themes that are coming up for students. We'll kind of collaborate as faculty and say, okay, this month, big focus on gut health and hormone balance. So let's kind of plan as much as we can to have the discussions around those topics, to have the case studies that we're doing live. And those aren't the faculty coming on and talking at the students for an hour. It's like 100% an open conversation
Oh,
that
yeah.
they're having with them.
I've had them be like, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna wait for anybody to ask questions." And then it's like, okay, once somebody gets the courage to ask a question. But I do want to just take a moment to elaborate on the fact that not only do we have those 4 time a month live faculty calls with students, but our membership is almost like a community where you have like a live feed that you can post a question and then someone will get back to you on it. And there's probably other people who are asking or wondering the same thing, and those people can comment, and there's like conversations that are happening in the comment sections. There's something else that I really want to double click on because I think that this is worth really emphasizing. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more, is that you are a certified nurse educator. Within that certification, you have to know what is going to help the student learn effectively. But that's something that sets our program apart, is that not only are you certified in from the Institute for Functional Medicine, just like the rest of our faculty, but you, as our CEO who approves all of everything, you are looking at it from a certified nurse educator lens and saying, how are we going to make sure that our students are solidifying the knowledge that they're getting in this program?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think about like some of the skills that we need to develop to use this in our practice. My past programs, when you do courses that are offer nursing contact hours, students review them. Part of the process is you have to review their feedback and adjust accordingly. I've been doing that for many years now with the programs I've written. I've gotten so much insight that's helped me to adapt everything that we do. And it informed me. I'd had over 1,000 nurses and nurse practitioners go through my previous program that I created, and I took all of their insights from that shorter 12-week course and put it into developing this program and making it exactly what everybody was asking for. Clinical integration was at the top of that list. So that means, how do I take what I just heard and apply it to my practice? And that is something that people doing all the other programs are like, they're not telling me how to use this tomorrow, and they're not telling me how to use it in my scope. We lean really hard into that. They wanted, a little bit of a side thing, but we did touch on it at the beginning. They are like, what if I decide I want to have my own practice? What do I do? The way we approach that is we created the Holistic Nursing Entrepreneur Program. I originally did that with several dozen founding nurses and nurse practitioners. We would meet all the time. Sam was part of this, and we would brainstorm, okay, this module is going to be on this topic. What questions do you have? What wisdom do you have? What needs to be in this module? Then I would connect with experts in the industry. They would help support developing each module. That is a separate thing that a lot of our students choose to bundle with the program, because I didn't want students that are trying to apply this in the hospital, in the primary care setting, they're trying to get a job in an integrative or functional practice. I didn't want them to have to endure hours and hours and hours of entrepreneurial type themes that don't apply to them. A lot of our students, like you, are in both. And we have a meeting every month too for all the entrepreneur nurses and nurse practitioners, where it's just an open discussion about, what are you struggling with this month? Are you celebrating? Like we had one yesterday, and one of the students was like, I want to create this education. I have offered it in these different ways in my community already. How would you adapt it? How would you price it? How do I get over that imposter syndrome? Really celebrating finally, like after wanting to do it for a long time, getting up in front of an audience and speaking. You have this like supportive community to talk about all those themes. The entrepreneur program is its own thing. That and mentorship, and the membership, the community that we have, were the three huge things that my students wanted. They were really important to me to include in the program. The other two things are Nutrition. A lot of nurses did the same as me, got that nutrition training just a little bit around the nursing school time, either before as a prereq or during the program. And a lot of it was really focused on renal disease, the DASH diet. And it wasn't that applicable and it wasn't even that evidence based. We have nutrition throughout the whole program. We talk about nutrition in every single module, in every single case study through the entire program. And then we have a module dedicated to that and using supplements in your practice as well, because I think that's really important. Pediatrics is something that is lacking in every other program that I'm aware of. I've never done one that even touched on it really. I know IFM is trying to create something. We have an entire module with a pediatric nurse practitioner that is taking everything you've learned in the program. How does this apply to the pediatric population? We do a nursing niche in every module where we talk about how could you use this content to have a really specific practice of your own or integrate it into the setting you're in. But the other big one is patient motivation and behavior change, like coaching skills. A lot of us are nurse coaches or board certified nurse coaches. Our only faculty member that isn't certified through IFM is very specifically chosen to be that way because she has a huge background as an educator and a board certified nurse coach. And so she works with me to be certain we have coaching skills in every module, but we have a whole module specifically on that. And she is our expert for that module. And then in semester 2, she will be supporting all of the faculty and every module of like weaving through. And with my background as a board certified nurse coach too, that we're both making certain that the whole second semester is really leveling up what they learned in that module in the first semester. So you can learn the ideas of the functional approach, but learning how to integrate them into your practice or how to set up a practice of your own where you can offer these things. But the biggest one, I think, and that after having probably hundreds of meetings now with my students over the years and all these open discussions that we have, how do you help people make the changes is
Mhm.
one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
I found nurse coaching first, and I was like, yeah, this is a great skill for me to have. But when I found the functional approach, I was like, this is what I always wanted from nursing. I think having that coaching skill as you're learning the functional approach is just massive. That, to my knowledge, too, we're the only program that incorporates nutrition and coaching skills through the entire program.
For myself and when I found functional medicine, and this is a question I get from a lot of students as well. And I know you have like blogs and podcast episodes about this where nurses are like, I don't know. Do I want to go to school to be an NP? Do I not? I personally knew I did not want to be an NP. I got my master's in education because I wanted to be able to teach. Not that I wanted to teach students, I wanted to teach people how to take care of themselves. And I couldn't find anything to show me that. And I knew I wanted more pathophysiology. I wanted to understand really what was happening in the body more. But I could not find any programs that were teaching really the functional medicine approach, and I didn't even know it was a thing at the time. Once I found your program and I was like, "Wait, you're gonna teach me about the pathophysiology of what's happening. You're gonna teach me how to apply this to a patient, how to help people and educate them, and then also understand supplements." And that's a question I get a lot too, is nurses who ask about supplements and can I tell patients about supplements? And I know you have some podcast episodes about that as well, but it's really just going back to that education and helping the client make an informed decision about what they want to take. Anybody could go to any corner store and purchase a supplement, but what you're doing as the nurse is educating them about what they're purchasing and helping them understand so they can make an informed decision.
We have a ton of conversations about some really obscure things you might not think of when you come in. And one of the conversations is like, what am I going to call myself?
Mhm.
And so now I'm connecting why you call yourself. Can you talk a little bit about that? Your
Yeah,
title?
I chose to call myself a functional nurse educator because I'm using the functional medicine approach. I'm an RN and I really take pride in being an RN. I think that it separates me from health coaches, for example, and I really take pride in educating my client and giving them the information that they need to help them make an informed decision. And even when I was working at the bedside, I would have clients that needed to have an informed consent about a procedure, and I'm giving them the information that they need. And if they had a question for the provider, I'm not having them sign that consent until the provider has answered their question. We've talked about the risks and the benefits. And it's the same thing when you're talking to clients in the functional lens. You're providing them education so that they can make an informed decision. For example, just because it's what we're learning in the cardiometabolic module, talking about timed nutrition. How is timed nutrition different than intermittent fasting? And how can a client make the decision if it's what they need to do or if it's going to benefit them? There's so many different nuances that maybe someone doesn't know because they've just heard about intermittent fasting and they're like, oh, well, I think it's going to help me. But really, educating and having that conversation with them about how it applies to them and if it's the right choice for them, but then also, what is their appropriate eating window for them or fasting window for them? So, providing them with that education so that they can make that informed decision.
I'm gonna go down a little bit of a rabbit hole right now, but I think it's kind of relevant, is it really makes me think about how we have a lot of students ask, "Are you gonna give me all the protocols?" I get that question a lot. I'm like, "Oh, no, there isn't one." And if you are going somewhere where they claim to be giving you a bunch of protocols, it's not gonna help everybody. And it is making me think of one of our faculty. We share a lot of like, just, "Oh, did you guys see this research article?" In the community, the students and the faculty will be like, I love this podcast episode, or I just heard this book. So we're sharing like things we're learning. And I was listening to one the other night, and it was one that one of the faculty recommended. And I thought it was so interesting that I have it playing and I'm doing other stuff. Then the guy is like, oh, he's talking about the benefits of fasting. The interviewer, I know, has interviewed somebody that knows more about this than this guy does. And he says, well, do you think that that is different for women? Because we know Stacey Sims is an expert in this field, and she says that we need to think about women's ability to tolerate that and the impact it has on their health differently, because most research on fasting hasn't been done on women and their menstrual cycles and hormone balance. And the guy was like, absolutely not. I don't see any different. And then I realized the rest of the talk, that was a couple hours long, he kept saying, in my practice with my patients, he isn't that expert that she is. He's a medical doctor who has gotten good results with his patients. You can tell that it's a little drill sergeant-y, but he's telling everybody to do the same thing.
Hmm.
Oh, if you want to lose weight, you need to do these 5 things. And don't come back and tell me that it didn't go well. I totally got that vibe from him. Where Stacey Sims, her doctorate is in this, and she lives in this research all day long, and we lean into her. We have people that we tell you, like every module, we're like, here's the experts to follow in this
Yep.
topic that you can trust.
Yep.
And she's a big one. If you listen to her, she's like, this is why this is different. And that is what it is like, I feel like, in our program, where we are acknowledging that here's some tools that you might use with patients, but it is not going to be what you go tell everybody. I always think about why Dr. Bland started his new business, PLMI. Personalized Lifestyle Medicine Institute. It's about
Personalized.
personalizing how we care for people, and just nursing, that's what we do. If that question comes up for you, if somebody's listening, a potential student, or you're going to give me all the protocols, nope, sorry, we're never going to do that. But we're going to make you feel really good about your ability to help patients make informed decisions case by case.
Mhm, mhm. And you had mentioned, some of the resources that we have available within the program. I can share my screen and show what we have available within the module. Right now, we are in our cardiometabolic module, and so what I'll do is I'll just share what it looks like when you first come into program. Okay, so the platform that's used for our functional nursing program is called Kajabi. When you log in, this is the screen that you're first going to see. Because I am currently a student in cohort 1, you can see all of the progress that I've made. You might notice that I still have some work left to do in the cardiometabolic module. But that being said, you can kind of see that each module is sectioned out into different objectives, and how Brigitte was mentioning, we meet the competencies through IFM. All of our objectives really integrate with that well. We have the objective related to the holistic integration for functional nursing, and maybe we can just double click on that in a minute about how our program helps to prepare you to take the Holistic Nurses Association board certification. You can see moving on to module 2. Right now, I'm going to just scroll all the way down to cardiometabolic, and I'm going to show you what it actually looks like inside that module. And you can see how much information you're getting within each module. That's something that potential students will ask me is, what am I going to be learning? We
Mhm.
do have a breakdown of each module, but I think it's helpful to be able to look at my screen and really be able to see what it looks like and how much how much meat you get inside of each module, really. You can see here we have objective one. That's where we're in the beginning, kind of really just reviewing that pathophysiology, that part that I said that I love that we get to touch base on. And then we're moving through, we talk about some lab interpretations, and then we talk about the nutrition aspect of this. And I'm just going to click in here, objective six, just so that you can see you really have all of your videos here. And then within each module, we have a specific audio file for the person who maybe doesn't want to watch the presentation, but they want to just hear the information. I tend to be the person that is re-listening to things while I'm driving because it kind of helps
Hmm.
to reinforce it for me. I really like that you have that option within each of these. I'm just going to go back out here as well because we have the section that talks about our case studies. As I had mentioned, we have 3 case studies within each module. I love this because you get the opportunity to really apply what you've learned and take notes on your IFM matrix and really practice it like it would be a real client scenario. We then have our module resources. I love this section. This is what Brigitte was mentioning about how you have this is who you should follow on social media. Here's your additional books you can read, different podcast episodes, audio links. And then we also have the breakdown of items within the functional medicine toolkit through IFM for what you can use that is going to apply to the information that you learned within the module. At the end of each module, there is a 10-question quiz. You do have to take that in order to unlock the next module when it opens, and it has on here the date that it will open as well. I have to go back a screen to see that. You also have the competencies broken down for you exactly how they are. And
So
then,
that's explaining in detail how that module applies to IFM's competencies.
yes. And then the clinical pearls is a really great area to just kind of give you like the quick synopsis of after you've learned it and listened to the modules, what are your big key takeaways? I really love to be able to reference back to this section, especially when I'm working with clients and there's something where I'm like, oh, I can't remember what that was. And I can look back and be like, oh, yes, the migrating
Hmm.
motor complex or, whatever it was. Really, each module is very comprehensive, gives you a lot of information, a lot of content. And then you do have that 10-question quiz at the end. It's open book. The time is not limited. It's not high stakes, but it is meant to be there to help you reinforce the learning that you had.
My goal in writing those questions too is that it isn't, I do know like what questions from my training with IFM, like what are those questions like? We want them to be applicable and rigorous. But also one goal that I always have with writing quiz questions is that they reinforce to you that you took away what you needed to from the modules. They're more of like a reassuring thing than like a scary, oh no, there's a test. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I did take away the key points here.
And now a quick word about our sponsor, the Institute for Functional Nursing. IFN is the leading education and community platform for nurses bringing functional medicine into their practice. IFN offers everything from short, on demand contact hour courses to the full functional nursing program designed specifically for nurses and nurse practitioners ready to practice root cause, whole person care. And if you're looking for connection and real time learning, the Functional Nursing membership includes 4 live meetings every month where we cover case studies and have open discussions and connection. Come be a part of a movement that's redefining what it means to be a nurse. Visit fxnursing.com to learn more and join us. And now back to today's episode.
I just wanted to mention as well, I have students who ask the question about like, am I going to be able to do this while working full time? Typically, we say it's about 5 hours per module, correct?
We have modules that are 1 week long, and we have modules that are 2 weeks long. And the entire program is 152 nursing contact hours. The first semester 76 and the second semester 76. And we do that so that nurses can get contact hours. Let's say the program straddled over 2 years, like 2006 and 7. They can have a CE certificate after semester 1 that they could turn in if they needed one. In that 76 hours, when we divide that up over the 16 weeks, because some modules are 1 week long and some modules are 2 weeks long, we tell students to anticipate approximately 5 hours per week. If it's a 2 week module, it's really 10 hours of content. I always try to preface that because of, just conversations with students over many years, that some of my students will blast through that and be like, oh, that took me 3 or 4 hours, and watch videos on double time. And this is easy for me. And I retain information by hearing it. Then we have students that are like, I need to read it and practice it and apply it and read it again and watch the videos twice. And so everybody, depending on what kind of learner they are, can anticipate something different.
Mhm.
That being said, I think that the majority of students are spending about 5 hours on it. The books we use are available for digital
Mhm.
versions. I did want to touch on that. What is it like to join and not be in the program yet? Students that are joining us right now are going to start our cohort in August, for
Mhm.
example. What a lot of them are doing is, because you get immediate access to the membership, and at this point, not a lot of them like will have a background. You had already done some courses. They're nurses new to functional healthcare. They will maybe take the intro course that is a 5 hour course, nursing contact hours. And from there, they'll have like a really solid foundation in what we're talking about in our meetings. So they feel really ready to hop in, watch the old recordings, join us live, and take advantage of those several free months in the membership before the program starts, when their year in the membership
Mhm.
starts. That's one thing I think that's really important too, is when students start in the course, they are coming in the membership too, and we're in there interacting about those topics. They get that for 1 year from the start date of the program, so that they can stay with us for a few months after they're done. Students will renew their membership for another year so that they can stay in there with us and keep having a place to come and connect and be like, "Oh, I was working with this patient." And then like the entrepreneur program, I wanted to hear your thoughts on this. A lot of students don't I didn't ever think about being an entrepreneur until I learned all of this. I had to learn how to build my own practice and get clients, and what EHR to use, and what licenses and taxes and like the thousand things you need to know to have a business. I figured that out on my own. A bunch of us did. And it's a struggle, right? Having that really clearly articulated for nurses is now there for if somebody later is like, "Oh, no, I don't wanna have my own practice." And then they're halfway through the program and they're like, "Wait a minute, that sounds
Yep.
pretty cool."
Yep.
They can get that later and still be in the entrepreneur program, which is totally self-paced. I tell students, I'm like, "Oh, are you in the mood to work on that? Go open that module and work through it, because that one you can open at any order that you want." Where, to come back to the functional nursing program, we do stay on a schedule.
Mm.
I tell students, you can get behind and you can catch up. That's absolutely something that happens. People have vacation. It's all there waiting for you. Our goal is to keep everybody on the same page as much as possible, because there's so much benefit that you get from the aspects you brought up earlier, where they're like able to pop in the community. And like Chip Nguyen right now is our cardiometabolic health master. And so she is our expert faculty for the cardiometabolic health module. She's in the community. So doing a case study on those themes and answering everybody's questions as they post them. The staying on time as much as possible is always recommended, but it is definitely designed to be there forever, to give you lifetime access. If something happens and you can't finish it with us, you can hop in later and still access it. You could renew your membership and stay with us in that way too. It's something that you can do very gradually if you need to.
A lot of the students I talk with, they'll say, like, yeah, I do want to start my own business, but what am I going to do in the meantime until we start the cohort in August? And that's where I talk with them about, well, you're going to be engaged in the community. You're going to be at the live meetings or watch the recorded videos. But also, if you already know that you're going to start a business, it's worth it to invest in our holistic nurse entrepreneur program, which is completely self paced. With our functional nurse program, you have to finish it in order and it has to be done on a specific timeline. Whereas with the holistic nurse entrepreneur program, if you're like, I don't want to start a newsletter yet, but I'm ready to do my website, you go to the website module. Or I don't want to do my LLC yet, but I'm ready to start an email list. You do your email list. And you pick throughout the program where you want to go and what's applicable for you and where you're at. And so for those people who want to get started right away, that's a good opportunity to start with, all right, let's get your LLC, let's get your EIN, let's look at different website hosts that you can use. And really just kind of getting the ball rolling so that as you're learning the information in the course, you can already start seeing clients and applying the information that you've learned.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yesterday we had that program has its monthly drop-in meeting where it's just open discussion. Anybody brought something they need to troubleshoot or talk through. One of our students was like, I'm going to this event this weekend and I have to be able to pitch who I am and what I do and how I could support these practitioners. What do I say? We get to know each other pretty well. And so I'm like, oh, is confidence maybe an issue here? Can we talk about that as a group? And like, how can we articulate who we are as professionals and not sound like, well, I might or I could, or, but instead like with a full voice
Yeah.
and sounding very sure. And so I never know what we're going to talk about in those meetings because something like that'll come up and it's like, oh, let's talk about self esteem or confidence or imposter syndrome, that whole narrative
Mhm.
that we all experience. And you're with a whole bunch of other people that can 100% relate to.
And I love, even before I was in this role, I loved that we always had you there in the Holistic Nurse Entrepreneur program. Because I don't know if people know this, but before you started teaching functional medicine, you had your own functional practice.
Mhm.
You've been through all of this already. It's not that you're just like teaching this without any like background doing it yourself. You've done this. You've been in the trenches. And so you're kind of like that go-to person where we're all like, okay, can you help us? And you can help direct us in what we're talking about. Others within the program are elaborating then or really chiming in to help with whatever question or problem may be experienced.
I kept looking, my students, I would read their reviews and they'd be like, "Oh, I wish I knew how to start up my own practice. I wish we had more of that," like in past courses I had. I was like, let me find somewhere to send them." I kept looking for a program like for them and I couldn't find one. And I started meeting with students or like, let's say we were going to record a podcast episode before we start recording. Somebody's like, "Oh no, I tried this business program that's this person and they charge all this money. I still don't feel good about it, or it didn't apply to me, or it wasn't what I needed." I kept hearing that. I was like, I think I need to do this. Then when I put the feelers out and so many people joined me, I was like shocked. It is one of the greatest things I've done in my career was get to do that with you guys. It was so fun. I started my MBA program as a result of all of that. And so I'm halfway through it and it is really just reinforcing what we do. I'm learning a lot about things like accounting and things that I don't really want to learn about, but it's just the reality of being a business owner. Uh, Being able to bring that back and feel more confident in the guidance I give the students, but also I'm fine with saying I'm not the expert in the room on everything. We have people that have graciously supported our students through the program and continue to offer their services. And the same with the functional nursing program. I'm not going to try to pretend like I know everything.
Mhm.
I think my strength is articulating how this works for nurses and standing up for nurses, showing up at like all these events and having the conversation, where do nurses fit here, getting the program going and developed. But then we have all these really great faculty now that are here and it doesn't feel like it's just me anymore. And the students are just really connecting with them. So I'm so excited about all of that.
That's something that I love about you and what you've created is that you're teaching your first functional medicine or functional nursing program. And the students were like, okay, but Brigitte, we need more. We need more. We need to learn more. You're like, well, I'll just create an entire institute for functional nursing that's a 2-semester program so that I can give you more. We'll make a community with it as well because everybody wants a community. And you're like, we're also going to teach you how to start a business because you're so good at like finding the gaps in what's available for nurses and that you really take the feedback very seriously and then implement it. And that's something that I think I look so highly to you upon is that you listen to the feedback and the result was this 2-semester functional nursing program because the nurses wanted more. So you gave them more.
Thank you. I'm really proud of it, but also I will tell you that it's like such an advantage in my MBA program when I meet with other students in there and we'll talk about like marketing or something and they'll be like, well, how do we find out what, like in a case scenario we're doing for a business, how would we find out what those customers want or which way to go or da, da. And I'll be like, oh, in my business, I just meet with them every week. And so we just have casual conversations and I know exactly what they're after because we
They
just talk
tell me.
about it. Yeah. Yeah, and then I want the feedback to make it even better. I know that we wanted, before we ended, to talk about the question you get about certification. Can you explain kind of the question you're getting, and then I can answer it?
Yeah. So when I talk with students on my calls, they'll ask, is there a certification that I get from doing this program? I think that really, Bridget, you do a really great job of explaining this. I'd love if you could just explain kind of our process and what certification students are available to take when take our program.
I feel so exciting that while we were creating the program, we found out that it met the criteria for the American Holistic Nurses Association's board certification as a holistic nurse. So there are different stages of that depending on what degree you have, but nurses can get a formal board certification at the end of the program. Very similar to like in the past, a lot of my students have been like CCRN or
Hmm.
med surg certified or emergency department certified, things like that, where you are learning those skills and then you're going to a formal board certification and doing the formal testing, just like we did for our RN and NP. So, very exciting that we qualify students for a legitimate board certification. And
A nursing board certification. I think that's
yes,
important to emphasize too, that
right.
only nurses can get this board certification, not a health coach, not a dietitian, nurses.
Yes. And what we would like in the future that we are advocating for is a true functional nursing board certification, because that is the reality of our profession. Is that's how we lean into our expertise and validate it is with a board certification in our field. It's an interesting phenomenon in the functional world that like people want different ones or people want certifications that aren't real legitimate ones. And so I want to first share a couple examples of the nursing versions. So nurse coaching didn't have a board certification a couple decades ago or even a decade ago. They were still advocating for that and implementing it. And that is a formal process because it isn't me creating a course and then telling you you have a certificate at the end and you're board certified with a test. It is a separate entity deciding what those scope and standards are for nursing professionals in their scope of practice.
Mhm.
Nurse coaching has done it. Cannabis nursing is doing it right now. So we're just getting in line. They think it's very important and it isn't a fast process. But I have done the holistic nursing board certification, and I do feel like we are in a really great position to prepare nurses for that. So every module through the program has one objective at the end that connects the themes of that module back to holistic nursing. We really feel like functional nursing is holistic nursing. I think holistic nurses can sometimes have other toolkits like aromatherapy, Reiki, sound healing, but otherwise, I feel like we are the definition of holistic nursing, looking at the whole person. There's that answer. What potential students might find if they look at other programs is people creating their own board certification at the end, all different kinds of initials that don't carry a lot of meaning. I personally have gotten certified previously through some of those courses I've done, and you are not allowed to talk about the test after you take it. And I will just tell you that it isn't reflective of what I think is important for nurses to know to practice. And after having done IFM's board certification and having done other quote unquote board certifications, I can say that they're drastically different. The other question I know you're getting that I get is about IFMs. And I want to say it was 2 years ago now, they announced that there should be a separation between them and their testing so that the medical community, because they're in the same boat where like an allopathic or conventional physician seeing somebody certified through a organization that creates their own test, it doesn't have that much credibility. And IFM really wants to lean into they are the gold standard for functional training. That's why we partnered with them. That's why we integrate all of their information and content and resources for our students have the competencies. All of that is intentionally because they are who we should follow as a field. We need to do it in the nursing lens. But IFM is like, okay, yeah, we want there to be as much credibility as possible behind this certification that we're offering. People creating the content are not creating the test. And that's a strict standard, just like I talked about for nursing. They now have published competencies that are required for being able to take that test. And at the moment, and to my knowledge, in the near future, their program is the only program that will qualify you for their exam. We do teach to their competencies so that we're certain that you're getting the validation that like you're getting trained more than adequately,
Mhm.
optimally in the functional approach. But they are not allowing other programs to take their certification. They hope that sometime in the future, and my vibe that I've gotten from those conversations is a couple years probably, that no other programs are going to be approved to train people to take their exam. But that is the goal eventually because that's what board certifications are. They're not take one program and take one test. They're have a pool of knowledge and then validate that you are prepared to care for patients in that field and that you're an expert. So I think, yeah, it's a really important question that a lot of students ask. They want to know. And I will say that, if you want IFM's board certification, do their program. It costs over 3 times more than ours does now. That is like the price has jumped even more recently. I think it's closer to $20,000 by the time you do the full training and then you do the prep course and take the exam. If you want that, I 100% like go take the program. That is the way to get their board certification. If you want to be prepared to care for patients and bring this into your practice as a nurse and feel really confident, I super recommend our program for all the reasons we've talked about, just like the support, the case studies. I did the math in bed the other night. I was like, by the time somebody's done with the program, how many case studies have they done? Like where they could map everything and think through a case, and it's over 70. By the time they finish the second semester, they have done a ton of case studies and had up to in 1 year, 48 meetings, but if they join early, even more with faculty to be able to talk through what they're learning. That is just extremely valuable and very rare in this field.
You get continuing education hours as well. But you have those continuing education hours that you get, and you also get a certificate of completion. I know what I've done in the past with taking other nursing courses that help you gain more knowledge, but you don't necessarily get a board certification with, is that I print off that certificate of completion thing. I completed 152 hours of functional nursing, and here's my certificate of completion. I have this knowledge, I know this knowledge, and really sharing that with my clients and the people that I work with that I've completed this training. I think that's really important as well, is that not only do you get those continuing education credits, but you also get that certificate of completion once completed our course.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks for saying that. A lot of our students are looking to work in integrative or functional practices. They don't want their own business, but they want to be in this world. They can share the IFM's published competencies and be like, I have been trained to this exactly. And here's my certificate that validates my certificate of completion, shows how many hours of training I've had in this. I think that we can get caught up in having a ton of initials. And, the faculty, we're very proud that we have IFM's board certification, but we also all are like, I wish that we
Yeah.
had this kind of training instead.
Yeah.
Everybody feels that way. So there's that. And as the next few months evolve, at the moment, we're starting to get feedback from the students currently in the program. I'm going to always take that and apply it and improve. And that's always going to be my goal. But one of the things we're going to have more and more of coming soon is testimonials
Mhm.
and sharing those on the website and on our social media. Uh, we have like so many students, and it's so fun to drop into a call and hear what they're doing with what they're learning, or like what rabbit hole they've gone down and a niche they're starting. So potential students can look for those as well. And as I mentioned, Sam is going to be doing some of the podcast moving forward, particularly interviewing students that can really share with you what it's like to be a part of our community. It is something else. Leaving primary care, having been for years in primary care, where you're with other people all day long, going to a virtual practice is kind of a lonely feeling
Mhm.
for a lot of us. A lot of my students and my faculty say that. This is like exactly what we needed, right? Then we go to the conferences, we get to see each other in person. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm very excited to be able to talk to students that we have in our program, and I always love hearing like how they found functional medicine, because most people find functional medicine versus like tripping upon it somehow, like they're looking for something that they weren't getting in our western model of care. And so I always love hearing those stories as well.
Yeah, it is really fun, and what people's hopes are or what this does for their feelings about their profession. I love all that. The last thing I wanted to be sure to mention is we're going to have some resources in the show notes for people, and people can schedule with you to connect and learn more about the program and get their questions answered. They can also join our monthly Q&A where they can hop in with you live and just drop in if they are free at that time and ask questions as well.
I'm excited to just talk. I love talking one on one with students. And then, if you're not a one on one kind of person, just drop into the group session and ask whatever question you might have. Really, my goal is to help provide you with information that you need to make a decision moving forward, because it is an investment to continue your education. But something I always love saying is that nobody can take your knowledge away from you. So whether this is for your own knowledge, helping yourself, helping your family, or starting a business, or using this in your career, really just helping provide you with the information you need to make an informed decision if our program is the right program for you and if this is the right time or the right next step for you in your career.
Yeah, I agree. It's a big decision. And I hope that we've kind of painted a picture of some considerations. If you're going to look at other programs, what would you want from that? I think people being able to meet and talk with you. I wanted to also mention that you are going to be working at our booths at the exhibit hall, all the conferences coming up. And so if people are at the conferences that we are posting we're attending through the year, you can connect with Sam in person also. And I will be there between talks as well. So not just opportunities to meet virtually, but also in person.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. And this was a great idea for a podcast episode because I think it answers a lot of people's questions, and visually being able to see what to expect, to know what a week looks like in the program and what sets us apart, I think is really helpful for many people. So thank you for making time, Sam.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us too, because we're so happy to have you at IFN.
Thank you for having me. I was very flattered when I was given the opportunity. I'm so proud to be a part of the organization, and I think that the high quality education that we provide is really just there's no comparison. There just really isn't.
Well, and it was an easy decision for me. I've known you long enough that I was like, oh, I hope she can work with us someday. So it worked out perfect.
And I'm sure this is off the record, but I'll never forget. I was in Hawaii with my family. I've got like my 6-month-old baby. I'm like on a HNEP call on the beach, and I'm like creating this like Instagram thing. And like it was just the coolest thing to be like talking to all these people. But you have those like moments that you'll never forget in your brain where I'm just like sitting looking at the beach and I'm like talking about creating my business. And it was just the coolest experience to be a part of it. So I'm grateful.
This is so exciting. Probably just as much as me, you would have never guessed this would be your life now, like when you go to nursing school, you know?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't. And even years ago when I did the podcast interview with you, I was so nervous. I was like profusely sweating. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to talk to Brigitte Sager like on the phone. This is like," and now I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like she's my boss. I get to work with her like all the time and help to like grow like the program." I just think it's so cool. Sometimes you just feel like there's like a void or you haven't gotten to like your place yet. I feel like being here and then also working on my business, I think that it is highly looked upon that I also like I have my own practice and I'm working to build that while I'm in this role because I really can be relatable to the students of both programs. I just think that the blend of the two roles is just the perfect place for where I've like envisioned kind of my career to be. So I'm really grateful.
Me too. Yeah, lucky us for sure. Okay, everybody. So you can look down at the links in the description for this episode to connect with Sam and learn more about what we do at IFN. And until next time, be well. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Functional Nurse Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps other nurses find this movement. To learn more about our programs and join the community at IFN, visit fxnursing.com. Together, we're not just rethinking healthcare, we are rebuilding it from the inside out.